Happy Easter, everyone. This is John coming to you from Reno, Nevada. I thought I'd bring you a little real estate information today instead of just hitting up on budgets. I currently have property that I am trying to do ADU with. Now, Reno does not have any areas except for one little tiny green zone over by the airport that is designated for ADUs. So given that the planning department is telling me that there is no stipulations for doing ADUs in Reno, they don't have any laws on it, they don't have any zoning on it. So currently you can't do ADUs except for that little tiny green zone that's over by the airport. So in an effort to try to do like a multifamily change for my zoning, there's really only three possibilities. Okay, you can get your area rezoned, which is over $9,000 to even ask the question. And to even ask the question, you're going to have to talk to all your neighbors in the neighborhood, and everything has to get rezoned, not just your property. They won't allow spot zoning, so you can't do it for just a single property. The entire neighborhood has to get changed out. Now, your neighbors won't have to pay for any of that. You will pay for it, but trying to get at least 20 other people to actually agree with doing a rezone is pretty far-fetched. And even if you can get them all to agree to it, it still has to get presented to the city council and they have to approve it, which you get a yes or no, you're out $9,000 either way. So that one's a pretty big long shot, but it is possible. The second option is called a conditional use permit. And this is completely determinant on your current zoning. So with my current zoning, the cost on this one would be over $4,000 to get a conditional use permit. But the zoning has to be suitable for doing something like that. Now, my zoning is called SF8, which means single family, 8 units to 1 acre. My lot is only 0.156 acres according to the assessor's office. So that will not support having 2 units on it. So that is not even an option. The third option that is available is doing what's called a guest quarters. Now, I don't have a problem with doing a guest quarters. It's very simple for me to go right to the building department because I no longer have to deal with the planning department because I won't be changing any exterior walls. I won't be adding any height. The exterior of the building will stay exactly the same. I will simply be moving some walls around, adding a kitchen, things of that nature. I've already got a bathroom that was part of the original structure. So you go directly to getting permits. You know, you're going to have to obviously show them that you have a viable plan and what the usage is for it. So there are some stipulations though where it won't be a multifamily, it won't be an ADU, it will be a guest quarters to your existing structure. So in this case, the stipulations they have is that you cannot have a stove range type of setup with 220 power. So you can't even have the 220 ran there. It actually has to be something like a hot plate that's 110 power that you plug into the wall outlet. But it's still plenty viable to have a kitchen set up. You just can't have the range. Now, there are other stipulations that could come into play depending on, you know, what county, what area you're in. You could have things like it has to be owner occupied, be a primary, and it has to be a family member to be in there. You could have other things where, you know, you have to have all the utilities be on the same meter. So those types of situations happen, those types of stipulations. And I have had the property for over a year now, so I'm pretty easy to be able to pivot into whatever situation makes sense and is legal. Okay, you do not want to do things that are not legal. So make sure that you know exactly what you're doing if you're going to be looking at doing things for Reno. Now, this was all communicated with me. It took me probably 5 trips to the planning office, because I made several trips before I bought the property, a few more after I bought the property, and it was finally the 5th trip that I really pushed them and ended up having to get a supervisor out there and speak with me, because they were telling me that this stuff was okay until this last time, and we really dug into all the laws and all the guidelines that the planners have to go off of, and found that no, I really can't do a lot of this stuff other than doing the guest quarters. So just, you know, you really got to push the planning department to give you good information, because, you know, I don't know what the issue was the first 4 times I went in, but it wasn't until the 5th time that I got really good information. On the note of getting a little more information, February 24th versus February 2024 versus 2023, the median home price for Reno was $510,000 in 2024, and 2023 was $475,000. So that's an increase of 7.4% year over year. So even though we've had higher interest rates, we're still continuing to increase our appreciation, increase what the pricing is for homes. Everybody is saying there's, you know, this big housing problem and issue where, you know, because the interest rates have gone up, we should have lower pricing, but that's not the case, because we don't have any inventory either. So the inventory has been very low, and we've gotten a little bit better with it, but not a lot. And we're coming into the springtime rush, so I'm sure our inventory is going to get even tighter. And should we actually get some of the interest rate drops from the Fed, I have a feeling that we're going to get back to a market where you're not going to be able to have any contingencies. You're going to have to price your bids to be over asking price, things of that nature. I've also gotten an email from the city, which I just signed up for it. There wasn't anything special I had to do other than when I talked to the planning department, I asked them to put me on the list so that I would be aware of what's going on in the city of Reno for ADUs. And they told me at the time that the city council is actually really focused on ADUs right now. It's a hot topic for them. So the first 3 months of 2024 was a stakeholders meeting and new zoning code initiatives for the city of Reno. At that time, they did a survey that went from January 1st to February 29th to get feedback from the public on ADUs, and they want to present it to the city council on March 27th. Well, it's March 31st right now, so they've got that presented to the city council. I haven't heard what the results are yet, and I will find out and give updates for that. But for the moment, the council is going to discuss the next steps for creating an ADU ordinance. The results of the survey for ADUs was 1,361 yeses, 309 no's, and 318 yes in certain neighborhoods. So that gives you a 68% yes, 15% no, and a 16% conditional neighborhood for the results. Now, there was areas of concern, which there is always, when you're adding housing, and those were parking, compatibility, square foot and height of the ADU, the lot size, if it could be rented as a vacation rental, a short-term rental, and if it's going to be rented by family member or non-family member. They also asked how likely you would be to build an ADU yourself, and 276 people on the survey didn't even own a home, so it's not a possibility for them. 833 were unlikely, 457 were a maybe, and 403 were a very likely. So ADUs are I would say kind of a middle of the road type of topic for the respondents on this survey. They were talking about the biggest concerns if we were going to create for doing ADUs again is parking, length of stays, doing noise and parties, protections. That kind of stuff is for the short-term rental side. They kind of snuck in some short-term rental questions on this survey. It was supposed to be about ADUs, but they also asked about doing the short-term rental stuff. So they asked people if they would create a short-term rental, and 1,238 said unlikely. That's 62% of the respondents. 277 said they don't own, 269 said a maybe, and 183 said very likely. So we've got, some ADU stuff on here. We've got some short-term rental stuff on here. The age range for the survey, there were 154 that went from 18 to 33 years old. 354 were 31 to 40. 391 were 41 years of age to 50 years of age. 360 were 51 to 60, and 696 were over 60 years old, which was our biggest 35% of the respondents. So we've got ADUs and short-term rentals both on the focus group for the city council. What they're going to do with it, I'm not really sure yet, but looking at the survey, it certainly seems like we've got some good positive feedback from the public. It looks like it's favorable. Now, what the city council does is, going to be very dependent on the infrastructures, the tax basis, what the public is willing and not willing to do. So they're going to be looking at all that kind of stuff. We never know what the politicians are going to do, so it's kind of a waiting game right now. I'm kind of taking the tact of I'm going to wait for a little bit before I actually build this out. I've got a short-term rental upstairs right now in the building. However, I can easily move into it and make it my primary, and I could rent out the ADU or the guest quarters, whatever they end up calling it. I'm hoping that I can turn it into an actual ADU, more of a multi-family type of situation, rather than to have it just be a guest quarters. A guest quarters is great, but I think an ADU is a more valuable commodity when it comes to doing resale or trying to pull any money out of it for future investments. So, you know, my preference would be for it to change to multifamily, which there are other multifamily properties in the area. However, I am right on the edge of the neighborhood where it turns to only single family. So, needless to say, I would have to go to a rezoning if I wanted to do, you know, a full rezoning for the neighborhood, which just doesn't seem very likely and is extremely expensive. And you can still get a no from the city council. So I'm hoping that the ADU ordinance will actually make some changes where it makes it a lot easier and less expensive, so that we can get some infill housing, some more affordable cost housing. I'm not sure which way they're going to go, whether they are going to want family members in it, whether you're going to be able to rent it, whether you could short term it. You know, there's a lot of questions yet on how the city council is going to change and work on their side of it. But it's some positive things that at least the city council has got on their radar, and hopefully we'll be getting some answers with this pretty quickly. So I hope you all have a great day. Enjoy your Easter. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.